why are we having a recall election? And it's amazing how many people have asked me that on a regular basis. How did we get here? What is this all about? Have we already done it? I think when it qualified for the ballot, I had a lot of people call me and ask, was the governor gone? How did this happen without them voting? And I had to try to walk them through the process of how we got to this particular place. It's been over a year, since June 10th, 2020, that the Secretary of State's office, under the direction of Mr. Padilla, approved petitions for circulation of the recall of the governor. So what we have here is by April the 26th of this year, my office announced that the number of ballot signatures needed had been reached, that we had gotten enough signatures and we needed to have close to 1.5 million signatures in order to do that. It's a 12.5% is what is required of all those who voted in the last election, the last gubernatorial election is required. The ballot will basically ask two questions. It'll ask you one question first. The most important question of all is, do you want to recall the governor? Do you want to recall Governor Gavin Newsom? And you give us a yes or no answer, yes or no. And if 50% plus one says yes, more than 50%, then the second question becomes relevant. But you'll be asked both questions. You'll be asked question one, do you want to recall the governor? Yes or no. Then your question two, so there's only two questions on the ballot. Who do you want to replace the governor? And so you get and there will be a number there are 46 individuals who've signed up. And that sounds like a lot of people, and it is. But keep in mind, last recall election was 135 people who actually ran for governor, who ran to be a replacement candidate. The current governor cannot be a part of the replacement candidates. So that if you vote to recall the governor, you cannot then turn around and say, oh yes, I want him to be the person who replaces himself. That cannot happen. So if for some reason there's over 50% of the people who say yes, then we look to see who got the most votes, not who got 50% plus one, but who got the most. And so given the number of people running, the governor could be chosen from 30% or 25%. In other words, we'll probably not have 50% plus one given the number of people running. But if the answer is no, if there are more people who say no, I don't want to get rid of the governor. If that's the case, then all the question two becomes immaterial. It's not even, the numbers are not even looked at in question number two, because if you don't want to recall him, it doesn't matter who you want to replace him. Many of you will ask, should I vote for both individuals? And yes, you should. You should vote for both. You should, if you're going to vote, even if you vote no, you should pick a person because you would still want to have input in who becomes the governor. If you choose to, but to definitely vote for the first one, which is yes or no, and then pick a person in the second half. Well, the recall election, first of all, is a statewide election. So it's run statewide and it's run by your local registrar of voters. So the first thing you want to do to make sure that you can do that is how do you participate? You participate, one, can we change the slide? Basically, step one, you're going to check to make sure that you're registered to vote. You're going to register if necessary, and then you're going to vote. So it's a really simple process, like any other process that we have, that we run as a statewide election. Everyone who lives in California is a resident of California, obviously, and is not in prison. So that means everybody who's probably has access to the whole voting apparatus and the polls and what have you is eligible to register and eligible to vote. So it becomes important, one, that you check your voting status, and we'll move to the next slide. You want to check your voting status to make sure that your information is up to date. Oftentimes people have moved and done various things, and so have no idea whether or not their address is correct. And so voters, you should verify your voter registration at voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. That becomes important so that you know as early as possible whether or not your address is correct, the information on you is correct. Because the counties will start mailing out ballots August the 16th. So let me give you some key dates to remind you about the election that's coming up. And it's coming up fast. I mean, it really is coming up fast. We have as some of you mentioned, we probably have about 8 weeks for this election to take place. On August the 16th, the counties must start mailing out ballots by the 16th of August. So they have to begin to send out the ballots. Our information guide goes out on August the 24th. And this is and my staff is proofing it now. This is an information guide that explains all the process for everyone. It helps them to understand the dates so they know what they should expect, as well as who they should contact for additional information. Keep in mind, August the 30th is the last day for voters to register easily online. They can register after that, but they can do online registration for voting and on August the 30th and actually get a ballot by mail. From the 31st to the 14th, those 2 weeks, is when you can actually do conditional or same day voting registration. So you still can register to vote. If someone says, oh my God, I missed August 31st, 30th, I really want to vote, they can still register to vote and on a conditional same day registration process, and they will vote come September 14th. The last day for the counties to send vote by mail ballots is September the 7th. So there's a rolling thing that counties are sending out vote by mail ballots. And so therefore, if you register by the 30th, you should get a ballot by the 7th of September, that time frame. Election day is on the 14th, and polling places open from 7 a.m. in the morning to 8 p.m.